Welcome back, everybody. Listen to this. Welcome back to the continuing theme of a horse is a horse, of course, of course. I don't know if it's because I have to sleep with fans on, but this is what you get to deal with on the day. I feel like I'm doing an impression of Richard Iowade doing an impression of Jason Statham. Oh, you know, get me yeah, that's where we are today. But also, ignore the Hall's cough drop clattering around in my mouth. Sometimes we got to get these things done. Don't get used to this sort of action hero sort of voice I have going on. It is fleeting. It is temporal. It is ethereal. It will last as long as it lasts. Also, if my volume level gets up too high, it gets really coarse. What are we looking at today? We're looking at the risks of naming your vehicle too early. This gentleman made a chirpy sound during construction where there was a plate where if you were going to run chassis mounted steering, it rubbed on the servo. And as such, it went tip, 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 tip. Sounded just like a Rainbird sprinkler. He got called Rainbird. He has definitely transitioned out of the Rainbird phase. I don't know. He will come into his own name over time. That is how we generally do it. But in betwixt the time when you saw him last and when you're seeing him now, not including when he was rotating on a plinth during a recent live stream, Rainbird, as I guess we're still calling him, as that was the name he was given initially, has gone down a bit of a rabbit hole. I've been beleaguered by a member of the core watching group of the Canyon that his philosophy is start as light as possible. And I generally don't do that because adding weight is inexpensive. You can buy 4 brass rings to put in your wheels for $25 to $30. Each one will add between 80 and 100 grams. That's all unsprung weight. It's down low. Yes, it's rotating. It's not optimal, but adding weight is fairly inexpensive. A lot of rigs start off heavy. Now, if you want to make a rig light, it gets more difficult and more expensive, and you will go off of the road into the weeds very quickly. So the discussion that we're going to undertake here indoors for a moment before we go out and take it to the rocks. Now, I have not wheeled this since I've made any of the changes that I will discuss here momentarily. So I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. We got a proper canyon change where we changed a whole lot of stuff. Was originally running a Fusion SE1200. That is too heavy. So we replaced that instead with a Rhino Crawler S12. Little pancakey boy, 1470 kV, which is the lowest kV they make it in, and we need the lowest kV we can because our gear reduction is effectively spur pinion, and then there's 2 gears in here. So we have reduced the number of gears to the extreme. AG Innovations Ninja, which has no internal BEC, so we have to run a little NSDRC to keep the lights on, was originally fitted with an RS400 servo. We had to replace that for a Flash Hobby 50 kg direct power because this BEC is basically just to power this tiny little receiver. We're also running an R4 FGM caseless receiver. That is all easy stuff, okay? If you're following along and you want to go lightweight, or as light as I want to go to a proper flyweight status. I want to get this thing as light as I possibly can. I want to run out of opportunities to make it light so that I can put weight back on where I want it. That's race car stuff, everybody. So he already has weight added. We've got brass knuckles and a brass servo tray. All right, so that's unsprung and non-rotating. So if you're going to put weight somewhere, that's a place to put weight. As I said, putting weight on is easy. He's also still running an aluminum motor plate. The stock plastic plate would be lighter, would probably save us 10 to 12 grams, but I haven't decided if I want to do that yet. Because that being aluminum adds a lot of rigidity to the front end, particularly after swapping out the stock rails for carbon rails. And honestly, that wasn't even in the top 3 biggest places to save weight, that being the rails. They dropped about, the factory rails were very light. I've remarked on this before, that if you're looking to save a lot of weight, you're going to have to do all of it. We are not min-maxed. I will point that out. This is still the factory bumper. I would rather just have an aluminum standoff back there, drop another 5 or 6 grams. And if you're saying 5 or 6 grams, what, you're in the wrong place, because min-maxing requires every single gram. You get out your Harbor Freight sourced micro scale, which is accurate to 1/10 of a gram, and you just work off the scale, and you begin to shed as much weight as you possibly can. Plastic is your friend. Carbon fiber if available, but plastic is your friend, because plastic is very light for the amount of material you gave. So in any opportunity to leave plastic in place, we will do so unless we know we can replace it with a part that is smaller and lighter. So we ditched the back half of the sliders. We don't need those anymore. They don't really do anything except to give you the body a little point to align. If I could lower the body even more, I would. I cannot. The body sits pretty much down on top of the frame rails. The 10 Pro shocks were replaced in favor of Traxxas big bores. So that is not min-maxed. A plastic-bodied shock, like going to an Enduro SE shock, would be even lighter. But we make some sacrifices because these shocks are tuned precisely the way I want them to be. And they are also shorter. They are slightly shorter than the factory shocks, about 6 millimeters. So that's going to pull all of the sprung weight down about 6 millimeters. The weeds, we're not even in the weeds yet. Number one is what we here call fastener optimization, which is when you're dealing with, say, the screws that go through the double shear here. If you have any thread showing on the inside there, the screw is too long. Replace it with a screw that's shorter. These were originally 25s. They were replaced with 22s. That's going to take a fraction of a gram. These screws that go through into the adapter plate were originally 12s. They stuck through a little bit. Now they're 10s. The screws that go through here, you want them to just come to the end of the lock nut. You want them to be as short as you possibly can. Like, I can cut this little bit off of the end of the servo horn, but I haven't done it yet. I could run a spacer to drop this down so that it's a little flatter, so that the servo isn't pushing and pulling at angles, but I'd have to add a gram or two. I haven't decided if I want to do it yet. Because we've gotten to the point where, if you know what this is, we'll back it up. This is your typical run-of-the-mill. They were included in the 10 Pro kit. These are 5.7 by 7.5 stainless steel hollow balls. And this one, in betwixt my fingers, weighs 0.6 grams, 0.6 of a gram. These are the ones that come on the little sprue tree. Whenever you get an element, there's a little spare parts tree, and it has these little gentlemen in there. It is 5.7 by 7.5 millimeters. And rather than weighing 0.6 grams, let's just do it in a ratio like this. One of these weighs the same amount as 8 of these. So on a typical vehicle, there'll be 20, 2 rear uppers, 2 rear lowers, 2 front uppers, 2 front lowers, a drag link, and a tie rod. So that will give you 20. 20 of these will weigh 12 grams. Look at that. He can do basic arithmetic. Seeing as these are 1/8 of the weight, 20 of these will weigh just under 3 grams. So that's a reduction of 9 grams. And it's 9 grams. Oh, no, I take that back. It's not 20 of them. 2, 4, 6. There's 8 more. There's 28 on the vehicle. So when they're all metal, well, I can't do that math. 8, 6, 6, 4. It's more. We're basically looking at about 6 grams of hollow balls overall, down from probably somewhere in the range of 18. So we've pulled actually about 12 grams of weight off. And you'd say, 12 grams? Well, if you're saying that, then you're in the wrong place. The shedding of weight from here, from a Fusion to this and this, is substantial. This vehicle, as it sits right now, this is the mode that it goes on and off the scale over and over and over again as we optimize fasteners, as we swap out hollow balls, as we remove every piece we can, and as I said, not min-maxed. Because you see this metal plate right here? That will be replaced with carbon fiber. And that will drop 5 grams of rotating mass. This lock nut is steel. The lock nuts that hold the wheels on are steel. I have ordered a bag of aluminum wheel nuts, which will shave another 8 to 10 grams, because you want to get as much weight off as you possibly can. I haven't weighed to see if there's less weight by putting a strip of Velcro down or running the strap. This strap is too long, so regardless, it is not optimized. He's running all plastic drive shafts, plastic sliders in the shafts, all the parts plastic except for the CVD ends. Plastic, once again, is your friend. So as I said, in this format right here, as he sits, I weigh him with the battery, 3S850. I weigh him with all the brass bits on, just no wheels, tires, or body. As he sits right here, he is under 1,500 grams. So 3.3-ish pounds. And then we do not add a lot of weight to it because we might not be min-maxed, but we are very close. These are the plastic hubs from the stock wheels from an Element. They've been drilled out to 3 millimeters, tapped to 3 millimeters to use the standard hardware. These are Amazon clones of Vanquish wheels. So they run the 20 millimeter ring that is stepped plastic. Each individual S4 comp pin from Injora weighs, I wrote it down. The 4 tires, like if you were looking at this instead of mounted, just this right here, see right there, that weighs 227 grams. So the lighter, the thinner tire is obviously going to be lighter. 227 for a set of 4, that puts us at what? 55, 56 grams per tire. That's very light. It is not uncommon for a typical Class 2 tire to weigh around 80 grams. So we're saving about an ounce a corner there. And then by running these wheels with the stock hubs removed and replaced with plastic hubs, which saves about 4 grams per wheel, 16 grams, that's half an ounce right there. You see what I'm saying? It's not gross removals of weight. That was the only gross removal of weight that we could accomplish. So this turns this right here, 4 inserts. They are single stage foams. I do not know what their source is. My only fear is that they are not soft enough. They are the softest I can find that fit these narrow tires and wheels. So it's what I got to run with. This right here, what's in my hand, weighs 505 grams. I can't really get it any lower than that because if you'll recall, the tires alone weigh 227 grams. So they're almost half the weight of it. This is the lightest wheel I could find. Those wheels that are, I have them set mounted right here. The carbon fiber face with the aluminum back and the aluminum center, these are significantly heavier than these. You just look around and if the imagery is good enough on Amazon, they are basically just straight clones of Vanquish, and they're the lightest wheels I could find outside of plastic. Because I do want to use I want to use a bead lock. I want to be able to change my hubs. I don't want to be stuck in a plastic wheel. Now, the plastic wheel will get you ever just that much closer to min-maxing, because realistically, it would drop, I'm going to go in the 40 to 50 gram per corner. Take another 200 grams off. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. A plastic wheel tends to be in like 10 to 15 gram range, depending on the type of wheel. I don't know if I'm quite ready to reduce that much unsprung weight, because that's going to start messing with our ratio, and it's going to make the CG appear to move higher. Before we get into any discussion of the CG overall, which has been calculated, I did make some minor changes before, post calculation. Went on the scales, did the full corner balancing, so I did do a little bit of changes. I don't think any of it is going to exceptionally negatively affect the CG that we ended up with. The CG, let's just say, wheel nuts, okay. The CG is very low. So, upper links do not need to be steel. I don't have a problem with lower links being steel. If I had titanium on hand, I would gladly switch them to titanium, simply because titanium slides more easily. The front uppers were replaced with Delrin. These are Delrin links that I made. They could be lighter, but I wrote this down as well. The stock front upper links, 64 millimeters long, weighed 14.2 grams each. That was total, so that is the link with the rod ends and the balls installed. The current front upper links weigh 7 grams each, so that drops half the weight. It drops almost 15 grams, 14.5 grams. The rear upper links, these are made out of aluminum. These are old Axial, I think they were 98, they say Axial 98. Sanded them down, drilled them out to 4 millimeter all the way through, so they're basically tubes. Tapped them. The stock ones weighed 18.2 grams each, and these weigh 9.4. So we could have saved just a tiny little bit more with Delrin, but the aluminum is skinnier, and at full compression, at full flex, we basically touch. So I didn't want to exchange a clearance issue for a couple grams of weight. Everything is a compromise. We had to decide where we were going to give and what we were going to like I could take off that bumper, but that bumper is helping protect what little bit of front end there is. It's already getting some cracks in it. So we leave that. Min-max is exceptionally difficult to get to. So we shaved what? Oh, yes. The factory drag link was 9.8 grams, not particularly heavy. Dug through, this is a titanium from Vanquish, somebody. It won't stick to a magnet, and it's very, very light, because this drag link with the ends and the Delrin balls installed weighs 5.4 grams. So that drops us 4.5 grams. So all total, what are we looking at? 32, 40, right about 40 grams there. An additional, what did we say? 12-ish to 15-ish grams from the hollow balls. That's already over 2 ounces. Then you add in these. The motor, the rails dropped, what did I say? It was almost a full ounce each side. Carbon fiber rails do not shed a great amount of weight. If you're going to make no other changes to your vehicle, changing to a carbon fiber rail is not really going to shave much weight for you, unless you're driving a TRX4. Those 3-piece carbon fiber rails that you can get for TRX4 off of Amazon and AliExpress, those will drop nearly half a pound. Going to the Creeper T case was the biggest individual loss, because that gearbox as it sits weighs half a pound. That Creeper T gearbox weighs, it's under 2 ounces. So 6 ounces is what, 150 grams, give or take? And then this was probably about another 150 grams. This is a platform that out of the box in stock format is not outright competitive with something like, say, a VRD. You get more in a VRD box. So my recommendation is, having gone through part of the way through a look how much stub axle we have coming out over there. It's just weight spinning around. So what I would try to do is I would dig through spares and reserves, and I would try to find hexes that are wider, or plastic hubs that are wider, so I can pull the width out without overwhelmingly increasing the weight. I have fitted it now with 8mm aluminum hexes in the front, because I wanted something with a through pin. They did not change the weight from the stock hex. They weigh the exact same amount. They're 8mm in the front, 6mm in the rear, so we have 4mm less track in the rear. For going through things like gates, this helps tremendously, even if it's just 4mm. Well, let's see. You know what? I don't know. I haven't measured it. Rear track is really, 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 really skinny. 8 7/8 inches. We'll call it 225 millimeters. That is tucked way in. The front should be just ever slightly wider, and it is 9 1/4. We will call that 235. So we're 10 millimeters wider in the front than we are in the rear. That's great. Easier to move that rear end through. We are running for those who haven't been following along, we were running a net 20% rear underdrive because this is 30% in the Creeper T, and then we have a 827 overdrive in the rear axle to take us to 20%. 20% seems to be the real sweet spot. And as I sit here and look at it now, here's the problem. When you get this deep in, when you're going this far down the rabbit hole, the only things you're looking at are, where can I take off weight? Like, where else can I shave weight? And we could change from XT60s to XT30s. That would save some weight. We could reroute this cable, put us a little hanger here, reroute the cables over here, and cut all of the wires shorter. That's going to save an appreciable number of grams, but it's not something that I am willing to do, because what if we in the future decide to put this electronic suite in something else? I could shorten the motor wires fairly significantly. I could probably cut 35 millimeters off of each motor wire. Min-max is sacrifice. It's beyond sacrifice. You have to know. You look at it and go, that's a thing I don't particularly want to do, but if we want to get to the lightest thing that we can, we have to do that. I want to put weight back on. I'm not obsessed with keeping this thing at a, if we look right here, at an RTR weight of, I had it brought up, 2,200 grams. It was 2218 at the time, but I've changed. I did a little bit more fastener optimization, and I changed out about, I think I changed out 10 more metal hollow balls. So we should be right around 2,200 grams, sitting somewhere between 61 and 62% front weight. My objective here for this in total is to get sprung weight to around 30% of the total vehicle's weight, and that will require, I'm almost certain, adding some low weight. And I don't know if this is the optimized tire. We could take it out there right now and it could be outright amazing. It could blow us away, but I don't know. Also, there's no worries. I do not like the 10 Pro body. I don't know how many times I've said it. I don't know how many times I will say it into the future. I do not particularly care for it, but it is very light. It is a very light body, especially for a full body. It's light to the point that I'm not even sure it would be worth going to a cab. It weighs about the same as a J-Concepts Creep cab. I think the Creep looks a lot better, but in all fairness, this does sit slightly lower. And when you pick up a rig that weighs 2,200 grams RTR, you go, okay, that's pretty light. The springs are as soft as I can go. DravTech Deluxe Ultra Softs in the rear, 0.4 pounds per inch, and softs in the front, 0.8 pounds per inch, and it still sits up a little too high. I cannot find a narrow enough foam. I would have cut them if I could find them. I couldn't find a foam any softer than this single stage foam, both for lightness and for drive. Would I like to run it with a 3D printed insert? I think 3D printed is probably my only option, because I need ultra, ultra, ultra soft. The amount of weight that's being supported by the insert in the tire is so small. So this thing should be remarkably agile. I'm just hoping that it doesn't exhibit some of the peculiarities of really lightweight things, which is a lot of the time they just kind of do their own thing, because when weight transfers, you don't know what it's going to do. And yeah, I've held you inside long enough. I know. We're going to go and be horse outside. Horses belong in the outdoors. Where did the CG end up, you might ask? The CG is just below the bottom of the body as it sits at ride height, which is both in Freedom units and worldwide units. It was at 72 millimeters. So actually it sits basically right where that hole is. You can't see the hole, but it's right where the hole is. For frame of reference, the axle stub is 60 millimeters off the ground. So the CG of this vehicle is 12 millimeters higher than the axle stub, which on the rim would be right at that, pretty much at that scallop right there. Now, my memory of it is hazy, and I forget things all the time because I'm old. But I will tell you this. That is the lowest CG on anything here. These are the advantages of straight axle. This is why people love straight axle so much. Once again, if you want to do something like this, I encourage it. Oh, also, at some point in the future, this will be remanufactured out of a single piece of Delrin, and it will be machined out by hand. I will hand machine it. I will cut the slots. I will make it as a copy of this, but then we will not need that aluminum adapter plate to mount the Creeper T, and I can mount the Creeper T even lower than it's mounted now. I will get it as low as I can. I would love to drive the CG of this below 70 millimeters. I would love to get the chassis, you know, no wheel, no tire, no body. I would love to get that weight even below 1,500 grams if possible. I am sort of running out of places to do it. I think that center skid is the biggest place that I can shave weight because I can min-max that Delrin piece. But what we're going to do now is grab the radio, and we're going to go out and we're going to do the thing. We're going to go to some spots and we're going to see how it feels. And listen, you better, I hate that, you better kill some lines. You'd better kill some lines. We can effectively classify this as first drive because I've definitely not driven it in this configuration. And if you don't know, if you don't have an established feel for lightweight, yeah, this is lightweight. On open, uneven ground, like the floor of the piazza here, it drives like it's made out of ping pong balls. It's all over the place. It is heavily damped because I'm trying to rely on that heavier damping. When it does transfer weight, I have this sneaking suspicion it's going to try to transfer it sneaky. Oh yeah, yeah. It almost feels like you're just driving on flat ground. If not mentioned, the travel stops on the C-hubs have been completely dremeled off smooth. So we will get some camming at full lock from the universals. Now, is the S4 pin a cheater tire? Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's going to make most anything look even better. That said, I think this thing, at its weight, look at that turning circle. This thing is going to make anything look like it has a surplus of traction. We can lift the leg. Are we going to get any slide back at all? That's a little pivot. Ooh. Yeah. I don't poo-poo flyweight. I've said it. It's just, you know, do you want to do it? Do you want to? Do you? Do you want to? So the hardest side is right over here, where it's behind the camera. Gonna try to figure out where to look. There is in everything. That's just I'm sliding on the links. In everything, there is a point of diminishing returns. There she goes. It's finding where that point is. Finding the point of diminishing returns in adding weight is easy. You keep adding weight to it, and then you'll notice stuff starts to get weird. Now, removing weight and finding that point of diminishing returns is more difficult because, and except in the instance of, say again, we mentioned a TRX4, where you can drop half a pound just like that. You put in one part and half a pound comes off. It's not too much, by the way. Well, losing half a pound of sprung is pretty much advantageous no matter who you are. But getting it down low enough, like there are guys running rigs that are 1,500 grams total, and they comp and stuff like that. I just got bitten on the foot by something that bites feet. I don't think we are near the point where we've gotten too light. I don't think we're particularly overdamped. We've got some nice low speed control. I don't think I could fit a lighter complement of electronics. Whoa, 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 easy, easy now. Usually I do that at 35. Because of our the inavailability of gear reduction, as I said, there's just 4 gears total. The Creeper T is just a transfer case, so this vehicle has no gearbox. It's FMM straight into a T case, which is fairly common. I mean, a lot of setups do it. But we've got a 1260, 12-tooth pinion, 60-tooth spur, so that's 5-to-1 there. And I didn't count the teeth when I had the Creeper T apart to grease it. But, I mean, it's not a lot. And then we've got the typical 3.75-to-1 of an 830 inside the axle. You could cruise control drive this all day. We are at 21 on the cruise control. Usually I have to do this at around 30. We're going to see how many times this thing even rolls, because I think it is going to be imminently, is that the word I'm looking for? Catchable. We're going to be able to catch this thing if it tries to get out of shape at all. I sat, no, I was going to say before the segue. No, after the segue. I sat and I stared at my A-Main cart, which is filled with KLR, comps, what do they call them, comp spec V2s, and Halos. I sit and I look at this on the bench. Fitted with $27 worth of tires, and I think the rims were about the same. And I want to say these are the included foams. They came out of the big foam sack, so I'm not 100% sure what these foams were originally. But they fit the tire perfectly, so I'm going to assume that they're the stock comp-pin foam. So we're looking at combos fitted to the vehicle that are in the, like, let's call it $60 all in for tire, foam, and wheel. I'm sitting in there and looking at a KLR combo, which I still, like, the motivation to order is because if you go to the OT6 webpage and read the what can only be described as absolute hyperbole, the easiest to mount tires in the world, a compound that puts this tire on a level all its own. I'm like, really? Really? Well, you know what? Really? And then it's $37 a pair for the tires, no foams. $30 a pair for the Halo Ultra air down inserts. Suddenly, okay. Yeah, I did that. So I'm like, that's like $130 for tires and inserts. And I'd be using the same wheels. So we're talking like 160, 170? Can I self-justify that? I don't know. I want to test that hyperbole. The easiest to mount tires in the world? That's a bold claim. You're making bold claims. But then we come out here and we get on rocks and we watch $27 worth of S4 comp pins do the thing. And you think, how many sets of Amazon wheels and tires could we buy for the cost of KLR comp specs? And I mean, the answer to that is pretty simple. I typically pay less for a set of wheels than I would for one pair of the KLRs. And you fight yourself. It's a fight inside. Will we see ROI? Is there a return on investment in that? Because my expectation would have to be that KLR is going to do more than these. Get up a little bit. There we go. I can't. Is that a real competition thing? Is that what it is? Is that where that money's going? If I was going to comp, which I'm not, I couldn't run these, but I could run those. So is that a price of admission thing that we're looking at? Get off of me. I'm right where the ants are going. So I talk myself into it, and then I talk myself out of it. I'm like, you're not going to get $130 in performance out of those tires. Not not comparatively speaking, because we have to take into account the fact that these exist. We also have to take into account that fast forward about 90 days from now, I'm going to guess 90 days, let's be honest, could be 120. We can remove those S4 comp pins and put some S5 XHX pins on there, and then we're just full on cheating. So, like, as I sit now, I feel like, oh, you've talked yourself out of KLR comp specs. But then I'm like, but they're so bold. And who better than I to test that boldness? Then the pessimism comes in, and you're like, look what you can do with an S4 pin. You can absolutely drive. I think the insert is too hard. I think if the insert was a little bit softer, or maybe I try to do the star cuts and turn them into crazy crawlers, something like that, which costs nothing but time, I think we could do even better. And that is a wild thing to be thinking, because I don't want to go so far as to say lightweight is the right weight, but still got that little bit of a long belly. And do you remember back? I know it's been a minute. Do you remember back where the rear track width is 225 and the front track width is 235, which is on both counts significantly narrower than what I typically run? This thing feels, because in its DNA, in the geometry of where the links mount and the shape of the rails, this thing feels stable as a table. All right, let's do the huge and try center cut, left-hander, and then Daphne's house over there. So this is a tough pullover right here. Okay, coming across. We want to stay right up through here. Hug that side. I don't feel like we've gotten mechanical yet. It does not, I feel no impending doodle bug. Like, it never feels like it wants to come back over, swap ends, as one would say. But I get right to here and just run out of traction. Eminently catchable is what I should have been going for. Nope. Oh no, you all heard that. So this is a portal pull right up here. Portals and big breakover are going to get you there. And the point where this guy starts to show limitations, strength and weakness are intertwined. Very low CG. Pretty good on the anti-squat, forcing that front end down. Cross weights are doing the thing. But when we get, that's his spot. That's Rainbird's Rest right there. You get to a spot, and I can feel passenger side rail right at the front of the skid. I can feel it hitting. And that's what's stopping us from getting over. We sit really low. Our weight is really low. Our weight is forward. The rear end can't quite get through. More underdrive would hurt. We can't quite get through there because no one company makes the best everything. No one rig is the best at everything. This guy, when there's less of that hard chop, like what we're getting on the other side, when we cut this side, we just need to get over this lip. There's a lip right here. Self-right's pretty good. Hadn't tested that. You see that little dark? I'm going to try to point right there. That little lip. It's a proper overhang. We need to get over that overhang. And I think the reason that we're not is I think the front insert is too firm. Okay, got over it. Got over it. Yeah, once we're through that, we can just do this. What do we look like on the descent? I genuinely do not feel the narrowness at all. Like, he drives wide. Now this is where, that weight transfer, what is this going to look like? That wasn't bad. That was actually, that wasn't just not bad, that was good right there. Come across right here. Yeah, there's no gravity now. We've gone anti-gravity. I don't feel anything pulling the front end down. For just a split second there, the rear wheels were completely off the ground. Putting some steering angle in. I don't want to go to that super deep spot right there. I mean, my complaints are none, because the limitations that we're arriving at, I know why we're there. I know how we got there. Gotta just find the right spot. Cut back right there. Kind of craning my head. Will the narrowness help us? There's that little spot again. This is why Daphne can kill it right here. Because there's a little hook. There's a little hook that will grab you. And without portals, it's very different. Man, this guy might be the self-right king now. There's a little spot that you get caught. And the straight axles. Mount Tumbledore is mean to straight axles, because in this, not in this particular part of it right here, but center cut and Daphne's side both definitely rely quite a bit on ground clearance. This guy gets out into the smoothies out here. No hesitation. Now this is an auto tumble right here coming down. So I want to come up here anyway and see. Like I say, I can't feel any weight pulling the front down. Let me line it up a little better. Okay. Given the tiniest bit of power. This is something that I would almost rather let cruise control take care of, because it can do it very consistently. So when that driver front drops, there was no rear weight transfer there. So, you know what? This is the lightest thing I got. Like, in terms of a capable vehicle, this is the lightest thing out here. I would go on record, and this is just one idiot with ants on his feet, hoarsely talking to you. And what he's saying is, that ultra light, it's even better descending than it is ascending. I can feel the limitations when going up. I feel nothing but stability when going down. And rock crawling is both directions, man. I think people don't pay enough attention to descending. Descending is half of this. You know what we should do? Let's do, instead of just more goofery, let's do front nine, the whole thing. All 9 gates. You ready? I'm sort of ready. I realize we're gonna have to cam bounce, because some idiot, like, when we talk narrow, what do we got? 3 inches on one side, 2 inches on the other, maybe 5 inches in between the gates. Some guy put a post right in between gates 1 and 2. I like to swing high wide to enter into 2. Okay. Hoo 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 hoo. Yeah, the pin, man. Okay. Suboptimal, but really bad angle. All right, so gives us an imperfect position, but we've got so much steering angle with those travel stops cut out. Okay, that was too peppy on the steppy. Yeah. I knew what I did. right in a gopher hole. Yellow ball just went straight into the ground. I'm not even gonna call the 7. I will take the 2 points for the reverse, but I said bad entry on the flat and then did it anyway. This is the problem with oneers. Yeah, I really like so we have a bit of limited travel. Oh, is that gonna slide? Yeah, it is. Yeah, you see the push? Yeah. I can't get through that push. Okay. That's a nice turning circle, though. I'll give it that. So he's got some issues with 3. Up through 4. The more overdrive, underdrive you have... Okay. This is... So far... I'm putting effectively all of it on driver error. Hey, how many times have you driven something super lightweight through gates? Well, this time, the question on at least my mind is, will he be able to get correct entry into 5, into Hans Bubi on the first try? We need to swing over that. Oh, that was easy. This is easy mode. Don't slide away. Don't slide away. Easy mode. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay. Now can we get around 6 without reversing? And I am not making this up. That's where he landed. I did not position him as such. It is golf, man. Play it where it lies. Okay, so that ball is fully under. We need to get over this without that rear dropping down. Oh! I'm telling you, at any point, if you start to feel like, oh, my rig's too good, all my lines are dead now, get a tennis ball, cut it in half, put it out there, drive between the tennis balls. It turns it into a whole new, no pun intended, ball game. So honestly, I'm going to be surprised if I don't hit almost all the gates, because this is starting from scratch. This is the pull line that I like right here, but this is the pull line that I like for portals. See that rear end squirting? There we go. There's the white off. Might as well hit them both. There you go. If you're going to rampage, rampage. Yeah, I'll take this cut right here. Looking at that line, inhaling gnats. Okay, now again, portals help right here because you see that big choppa right in the middle. We're gonna have to hug yellow side. This is where we're gonna try to use that narrowness. We don't want to do is fall into that bucket right there. Stay up, stay up. Okay, over the top. Similar approach to 5. Okay, need to pull it in tight. Yeah, it's super responsive. It's super responsive, as it should be. I just don't know how to drive it. This is so far outside my wheelhouse. I've hit nearly every gate. I'm getting used to 5. I've hit nearly every gate. The rig basically hasn't hit any of them. And because the universe is the universe, traditionally, 8 and 9, we're approaching 8 right now. 8 is the gate that I'm the worst at, followed by 9, followed by 6. And we hit 6 and 7. And let's be honest, there's more than a fair chance we're going to hit 8 and 9. Now maybe the foam isn't too heavy. I want to turn back, but I can't. Because I need to try to get that rear end up. Come on. Come on, Skinny. The tire is aiming straight at it. Maybe we can spin it. Nope, it's pulling it. We'll just put that back on there. No, I made that worse. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some guy came out here with a drill and he put markers down in the absolutely worst perfect locations. I realize now we haven't done a proper side hill. We've done a lot of side hilling, but oh, the steering. The steering, though. I mean, we might as well just plow straight into 9. What did I clear? Did I get 3 gates? Did I get 3 gates cleanly? I blame nothing but the operator. It's not far enough high side. Yeah. I'm still bad on them. You can put an average Joe in a Formula One car and he will perform exactly as you would anticipate. And I don't know from whereabouts you might hail, but if right now, somewhere outside your domicile, you do not have red harvester ants, it's because they're here. They're all here, all of them. Every harvester ant that isn't in your yard is here. It's a little razy-risy. I'm not surprised by the 3-wheel motion. And honestly, now watching the way the foams were behaving, transitioning through the front 9 there, maybe they're not over. Maybe they're not too firm. This is Geo. Yeah. Had a little slidey action. But other than that, pretty well stapled down. But at any moment, it will remind you of how light it is. It is the ultimate expression of that Porsche feel, where everything's fine right up until it isn't. That got loose because I gave it too much zoot, trying to get on an up angle on a side hill, but there was no catching it. You have to catch this mid-roll. You're not going to catch it before the roll. I do think, though, of what's on the market right now, like, invariably and inevitably, we're coming around to, like, VRD versus 10 Pro. And if it's a VRD carbon, you buy a VRD carbon. If you want to build this, don't start with a 10 Pro. Start with Amazon and AliExpress. Build yourself some 10 Pro axles. Get yourself some 10 Pro rails. And start putting the pieces together. You know, get that Creeper T combo off Amazon or AliExpress. This is the much, much better choice to build something flyweight out of. Getting anything fitted with a VFD, getting it really light is not easy. A VFD fitted, even a VRD carbon, not min-maxed, but with some effort put into reducing the weight, is still going to be about 2,600 grams. It's going to be 400 grams heavier than this. And boy, when this boy, a roller, when he rolls, he does not go boom, boom. He goes boom, 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 boom. It's like when you watch those guys catch the apex of a corner in a rally car, but where the apex is, there's a rock, and then the car just cartwheels 16 times until they land in a ditch. That's this. I want to see this pull around right here. Keep it down real slow. I don't want to let the throttle get me upset. There you go. I wish I could gear it down even more. Like, I'm wondering now, can I fit a 10 on there? Because going from a 12-tooth pinion to going from a 12 to a 10, that's going from a 5 to 1 ratio spur pinion to a 6 to 1 spur pinion. So that's another 20% gear reduction, and I think that might be a big change. We save a couple grams on the pinion gear too. I am happier than I have been previously at any point with what was a 10 Pro. Do I acknowledge that I have done what I do to many rigs, not counting the VRD carbon, which is turn it into something else? Yeah, absolutely I did. That's not a 10 Pro. I'm pointing. I'm behind the. Oops. I'm over here behind the camera and I'm going like this. That's not a 10 Pro. But at the same time, I think you'll have to acknowledge rails, axles, still using the FMM, still has the body, still has the Geo. I haven't even changed the link mounting or shock mounting positions. The shocks are in the factory positions, the links are in the factory positions. So it's more 10 Pro than it isn't. I would just be so bold as to say, at least for my application, what I want to do with it, I feel like it's 10 Pro improved, certainly. The biggest drawback to the 10 Pro is the gearbox that they designed for the 10 Pro. Do I think, in my honesty, anything I did today could have been improved by having switchable 0 to 40 OD at the expense of a half pound of gearbox? No. There would have been a moment here or there where a 0 would have helped or a 40 would have helped, but losing half a pound of sprung weight in the middle of the rig definitely more than offsets the loss of switchable overdrive. Unquestionably. That's another ant. Okay, so me and the Red Harvesters were not getting along today. I hope that you and I, you as a collective and I as a smaller collective, I hope we got along today. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you had a good time. If you have any questions about what is not a 10 Pro, about getting deep into the fly weighting of things, down to, putting in your plastic pivot balls, do hit me in the comments below. Tune in for whatever we have coming up next. And in between now and when we meet again, please, one and all, do your very best to have a good one, everybody. It is 8 o'clock in the morning, and it is 87 degrees. Farewell from the desert, the Rainbird, or whatever his name eventually turns out to be, and I, together, bid you a fond adieu.